Okay, call the meeting to order. Today, the committee will examine three bills in two panels. S-1250, the Restoring Accountability to the Indian Health Services Act of 2017. S-1275, the Bringing Useful Initiatives to Indian Land Development, or BUILD Act. And S-1333, the Tribal HUD-VASH Act of 2017. Regarding panel one, on May 25th, 2017, Senator Barrasso, Thune, and I introduced S-1250, the Restoring Accountability to the Indian Health Services Act of 2017. This bill is intended to increase transparency and accountability, improve patient safety and care, and boost recruitment and retention of employees to the IHS. We introduced this bill again this Congress to begin reversing the years of poor health care delivery in some IHS facilities. A significant amount of work by the committee with the agency, the Government Accountability Office, and stakeholders has been put into this bill and its predecessor bill, introduced by then Chairman Barrasso, Thune, Rounds, and McCain. Nearly 1 year ago, last Congress, on June 17, 2016, the committee held a hearing on the predecessor bill S-2953. The Acting Deputy Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, Mary Wakefield, testified in support of some provisions of the bill and with suggestions on other provisions. The committee favorably reported a substitute amendment to address the department's issues. Those changes are also reflected in this bill, along with a few additional provisions. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today on this bill, as well as improvements. Join everyone on the dais that we can do better in providing health care to Native communities. As far as panel two, on May 25th, 2017, I introduced S-1275, the BUILD Act, to reauthorize the Native American Housing and Self-Determination Act, eliminate duplicative bureaucracy when multiple agencies are involved in a tribal housing project, and encourage new forms of investment by extending leaseholds on trust or restricted lands from 50 years to a maximum of 99 years. The bill is intended to improve housing conditions within tribal communities by providing greater tribal control over housing development on their lands, and we all know what a pressing issue housing is on the reservation. This committee has worked for several years to reauthorize the Native American Housing and Self-Determination Act, or NAHASDA, and improve housing conditions for Indian people. Prior bills have been held up in past Congresses with substantial effort into finding a path forward. This bill has been held up in the last Congress and the Congress prior to that. We would like to pass it. As I mentioned to the National American Indian Housing Council's Legislative Conference in February, the BUILD Act, this is the Chevy model of reauthorization. The engine of the BUILD Act is the reauthorization of the Indian Housing Block Grant, which was a centerpiece of NAHASDA when it was first introduced and passed this body back in 1996. In previous versions of a NAHASDA reauthorization, there were over 20 different pieces of legislation included. Some of them are more controversial than others, obviously, but some of the pieces included were lease requirements, program income, rental income caps, total development maximum project cost, demonstration programs, limitation on use for the Cherokee Nation, the Native Hawaiian Block Grant, and other aspects. Instead of just reintroducing all the past bills, I wanted to take a fresh look at getting a bill across the finish line. Now, I know that some members on the committee have expressed their desire to include some of these previous positions in this bill, a different vehicle, or a combination of both. With that, I'm willing to work with any member here on finding a path forward. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to have a legislative hearing early on, as we are doing, like today, so we can roll up our sleeves and work toward finally getting these bills to the President's desk. But only after giving everyone an opportunity for meaningful input. Not only on the housing bill, but the other features that I've just covered. On June 12, 2017, Senators Tester, Isaacson, Udall, and myself introduced S-1333, the Tribal HUD-VASH Act of 2017. This bill is intended to improve the housing and urban Development and Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Program. This program combines housing choice voucher rental assistance for homeless tribal veterans with case management and clinical services provided by the Veterans Administration through the Veterans Administration Medical Centers. The bill would authorize the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the VA to modify program administration to facilitate the recruitment of VA case managers and create a set-aside for rental assistance. The bill would also require the program to be administered in accordance with the Native American Housing Assistance and Self-Determination Act, NAHASDA. It would also mandate IHS work cooperatively to provide assistance as requested by HUD or the VA in carrying out the program. Finally, it would require a review and report by the agencies to be submitted to the Congressional Committees of Jurisdiction. All three of these are important bills to help Indian people obtain critical services for health care and for housing. Look forward to hearing as to how we can best advance these measures and get them signed into law. The Native American people, I think, have the highest rate of service in our military of any group. We're talking about housing, we're talking about health care, and we're talking about veterans. Before we turn to the witnesses, I would like